To KPMG for hosting us. It's a great venue. I love looking out the window and seeing that. It's nice. It's good. So today I'm going to be talking about the power of local facts. Does anybody use local facts now in their environment? One. I was definitely talking to someone else who hasn't put their hand up, so that's at least 3 people. So it's something that can really, it won't necessarily change your life, but it can make life a lot easier for you. So my name is Dennis McCarthy. I'm currently a contract Linux engineer working at WellPay. About to go permy because IR35 stuff. Anyone else having the same issue at the moment? A couple of hands, you know, us contractor bastards, you know. I kind of use Ansible every day. It's a mix between playbooks and command line. I treat Ansible like my old golden host back in the Linux admin days, where I had a root key on every server, and now I can do the same thing using pass. That one, that I can't remember. I also run the London Infrastructure as Code meetup. Has anyone ever heard of that? Excellent. More hands for that than any of the other ones. Brilliant. So if you feel free, go on to Meetup and look at the stuff that we're doing. If you want to join, not that I'm plugging it too much because I'm here at Ansible London. So today we're going to have a quick look at an overview of what local facts are. Is it right for you? Yes and no, probably. We're going to do a quick demo just showing you a complete section of code that will work, that you can manipulate in your own time. It works on RHEL, it works on Ubuntu, so it should fit into most of your environment use cases. Then we're going to look at some pros and cons to see if it's right. So I was hoping for my notes, but it hasn't. If you just give me a sec, I'll see if I can extend my screen, because I'm going to forget stuff. Okay, extend. God knows what you'll see if it does this. There you go. That's my Fortnite background. Does anyone play Fortnite? Oh, you're missing out. Right. Let me come out of this. All right, there we go. Where's he gone? All right, here we are. Let's see if we can do it delicately. There we go. Now I can't see what I'm doing. Right. We don't want pros and cons just yet. Okay, so local facts aren't for everybody. Excellent, I'm glad that was there. They do fit some situations, but not others. I've been working on a migration from Puppet to Ansible. Anyone else doing anything like that, moving away from Puppet, or just, okay. So Puppet has facts, and those facts in Hira are brilliant, and that's something that Ansible doesn't quite do as well as Puppet with Hira, at least in my opinion. But it's getting better all the time. So we utilise as part of our Puppet build, we utilise a local file that contains all the different facts that we use. And those facts contain things like the network zone, whether you're in management or core. It has what business group or role you're in. So you can, depending on the different roles, you could have a web team using a particular role or a database team using another role. And then obviously you sort out your build process depending on what the role is. It's probably fairly common for you guys. Because we've already got that file, we've utilised that to build a Red Hat desktop. So we've got loads of developers using their own laptops. And the point is to actually get them off those laptops and onto like a Red Hat desktop so that they can do all their functions that they normally do, but their IP is kept within the company. If you don't have a CMDB or an ENC, or you don't know how to connect to it, local facts can kind of get you over a hump and get you working and doing stuff that you want to do without having to necessarily hit your head against a bit wall because you don't know how to connect to an external node classifier or something. So local facts are pretty much just user-supplied values. You've decided that you want to have some of this information locally. You decide what it is. It's up to you. You can either use a bash script to create it or use Ansible itself, which is what I'm going to do in a minute. They live in a default location called under etc ansible facts.d. You can have it in a different directory, but you just have to use the facts_path in your Ansible configuration file. I'm using the default, but you can change it if you want to. If you're using facts, if you have a .fact file in that location, it will look at it and try and parse that data and bring it in as a fact. If local wins, So if you've got a local fact defined and then you're using variables to sort of as a backup default, it will always pick the local value unless you're using extra vars, which is like the king of all values. So I'll do a quick demo on precedence just quickly to show you the difference, how you can manipulate the data that you want to use. So let's do that now. So there it is. So this will be fun. So let's go back to not being a duplicate screen anymore. Okay, so right, here we go. Okay, so all of the code for this exercise lives in GitHub. If you look up DMCC UK or Ansible local facts, you'll probably find it. I can give you the URL if you want. It's self-contained, like I said, runs on RHEL and Ubuntu. So if we just clone the repo, and you can do this anywhere. So that's our repo. So if we just quickly refer back. So I always advise to use the latest version of Ansible because 9 times out of 10 there'll be a new version that does something you want and you haven't got it because your company doesn't have the latest version and it's a bit of a pain in the neck. You can clone my repo, nice and obvious, everyone's probably done that already. And then if you want to, so MD Markdown, you can do things like this. I don't know if anyone, but you can go there and nick that as well if you want. So we're just going to run this locally. And I don't have to do anything else. It's going to create a local fact file based on what's in my Ansible code. It's going to, well, let's just run it. You can ignore the warnings. So it's created some local facts. You can see here that it's picked up the Ansible local file and it's decided that my environment is production, systems and web server. It's told me that my application port is down here is 1990, and again, so if we look at the local file it's created under temp, we can see that it's created that value. Right, so for the purposes of this exercise, if we look at the tasks, so these three here, so that when you run a playbook and you use a variable, this is taking that variable in a live playbook and outputting it here so you can see it to use. So that's one use case. If we look at the show facts YAML, so this is where we're defining it in a playbook. So we're using that variable in a playbook that we've printed out to the screen because we've asked it to. So it's picked up the fact that the facts are there. The other way of using it is to then use that into our configuration file and actually use that, the fact that you've defined. And if we look at so this is where we're creating a template based on the facts. So you can see here, you've got the app port, the environment, and the role. And that, in the code, creates a file under temp, which we just saw, that then produces that code. So if you've got a configuration file, you're trying to configure an app, you can take those local variables and you can stick it in any file you like. This is just an example, and you can change these locations. You can, if you haven't done it before, you can have a play. It's quite straightforward. It's very simple to follow it through where you need to change it. So in terms of precedence, I just wanted to do a quick example. So at the moment, we've got it defined so this is the file that gets created under that facts.d directory. So if we were to update this file, turn it off. Right, if we update this file, can't do that. I find my typing gets worse depending on how many people are watching me. So it's quite bad at the moment. So if we go to files and local, and if we take out this port, so we're no longer using it, as part of the template, the group vars, where I define it all, I've actually set up here to go to the local Ansible variable, but if it can't find it, go to a default variable of 9999. So it's always good to have a fallback in case the file doesn't exist or it's wrong. You can go back to the fallback. So now that we've taken that other option out and we rerun the playbook, when it outputs to the screen, it should say 9999, and the template should also say, yes, it's changed 9999. If we cap that file again under temp, it's 9999. Brilliant. And there's one other thing you can do. So you can override all of this with extra vars. So extra vars can be quite useful. It's command line only, and it's the king. It beats every other variable. So you run the same command, but you give it the tag at the end saying extra vars, and then obviously that's my variable name, and I'm changing it to 1010. Could be anything. So if I run that now, it should change. Yep, so it's picked up the new port there, and again, if you cap the same file, it's now 1010. So you can change the order of what is happening at the precedence of the variable. So you can just use a local one, you can default back to a known default if it's not there, or you can override it completely with extra vars. So that's it, that's the demo. Let me go back to my notes. So, pros and cons. So it's not for everybody, it won't work in every situation. You can't query this, there's no CMDB that stores this data, it's all local. You can't find out how many of something I have running in my environment. That's not going to work. You need a database or a CMDB or an external node. You need some other form of storage, so that's a con. It doesn't really work. If you set your playbooks up to use a .fact file, make sure it's there, otherwise it will break. Set default values in your code like we have. You lose flexibility. The best thing to do in all situations is to write your code to cater for every single eventuality that you have. To look on a server and go, right, that's that. We've got a server name, maybe some people use this, made up of your data center, your role, some other pertinent information you can pull out as a fact to know what its job is. If you can program that into your code, you don't need local variables, and you can run it on anything and it'll work, but there's a lot more setup involved, it takes a little bit longer, a lot more testing. But once you've got it working, you probably don't need local variables. So on the pros, it's quick and easy, very quick and easy to set up. You can take this code and just change it probably in about 5 minutes and have something running that you wanted to do. You can use Ansible to create it like I just did, or as part of our process, we have a bash script that just runs and populates a file. Really simple stuff, at build time, so we know who built it, what's the join OU, what management network it's in, whether it's production or non-production, and there's no additional logic. It's all, you're going to use variables anyway. You're not really making it complicated by doing this. So it's a quick win. It can get you over a hump. If you don't have a CMDB or anything, you might end up just using it to build your servers. So it can be quite helpful. So hopefully that's helped or answered some questions. Right. Thank you very much. I think we're going to have a short break. Cheers.